Cheeseheads. Get on your feet. It's Curd and Long. Hosted by Sparky, Fifer, and Ryan Horvat.
And another edition of Curd and Long. Steve Sparky, Fifer, 1250 AM, The Fan. You can follow me on Twitter at Sparky Radio. He is Ryan Horvat, BetMGM tonight, weeknights on the BetQL radio station near you. Watch the games. Check out him, Nick Ashew, and Trista Crick as well. And, of course, you can follow him on Twitter at Ryan Horvat. Okay, so it's a Wednesday edition as we get ready for the Chargers this week, which Jordan Love better be able to score like 30 points this week because I have a feeling it's going to be a shootout because I don't think this Packers defense is going to stop them very much. But we'll see how this all plays out. We can talk more about the game coming up on Friday. So let's talk about Jordan Love a little bit. We're halfway through the season, right? We're at that halfway point where we can talk about this. And maybe Friday I'll go back and I'll see if I can find our predictions for the season that Ryan and I made. I wrote them all down. So we make like our order of finish in the division, who's going to win the Super Bowl, all that stuff. So if I can find it for Friday, maybe we can go over that on Friday as well. So anyways, so halfway through the season for the most part, and I want to kind of get where we are with Jordan Love and what have we liked from Jordan Love to this point of the season. I guess I'll start. I like that he's getting a little bit more comfortable moving around and getting out of the pocket if he needs to make a throw versus standing in there like a statue. I like that. I like his ability to spread the ball around. Even though those two Christian Watson interceptions, kind of will drive everybody crazy and think that's the new Devontae. But I do like the ability to spread around and trust guys, right? I mean, if a guy drops the ball, he doesn't avoid him for the rest of the game. He goes back to him again, whether it be, Reed or Wicks or whoever the case may be. Musgrave's dropped plenty this year. He's still throwing the ball to Musgrave. I like the idea that they're getting more chunk plays now. They have 8 or 9 chunk plays, 20 yards or more in that last game. So now, he's throwing the ball down the field and actually connecting on some of these. Earlier in the year, he'd throw the ball down the field and miss on all of them. So the fact that he's connecting now on some of these, I'm happy with that. You're seeing improvement from that aspect as well. And I think the other thing that I'm happy about, and it's going to start like a slam on Rodgers, but that's the last thing I've seen, which is I like how he conducts himself on the field, right? He's not having a tremendous amount of body language every time something goes horrible. He's not yelling and screaming at guys that we know of on the sidelines. I've not heard of him yelling and screaming at anybody in practices. Now, will he at some point get to that point in the next couple of years as things don't get better? Yeah, I would guess. Maybe he gets to that point. But right now, he's not. And I think for a very young offense that knows they aren't very good and are trying to figure the way out of this, him yelling and screaming, it probably wasn't going to help anything anyhow. So I like that aspect of Jordan Love too. Ryan Horvat, what have you liked from Jordan Love so far this season?
Yeah, I mean, like Jordan Love can make some really, 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 really ridiculous throws, right? Like some Sports Center type throws. And you're like, whoa. And then he can miss some really easy throws. So what I've liked, are some of the touchdown passes. I like the game against the Saints earlier this season where they were down 3 scores. What I'd like to see from Jordan Love is he battles. Like, he's a fighter. I don't know that he's I don't know that he's the most talented quarterback in the league. In fact, I know Pro Football Focus doesn't mean everything, but right now he's number 20 in the National Football League. Like, right one spot below Ryan Tannehill. Playing better than Derek Carr this season, so he's got that going for him. But, I like that he battles. I like that, he seems like he's got a good head on his shoulders. He doesn't let a couple picks, get him down. It doesn't appear when you see him at the podium. He's not getting a whole lot of help. Like you said, Musgrave's dropping way too many passes as expected from a rookie. That's why you can't rely on rookies. Christian Watson, I know we're going to get to him, and I know there's going to be excuses for him. But if the ball hits you in the hands,
you have to catch it.
You got to catch the football in the National Football League. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like Romeo Doubs is a nice player, but he's like a 4. I love Jaden Reed. Like the highlights that I've been posting of Jordan Love throws, because there's been some really good Jordan Love throws, right? Like he can make like the Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers type throws. He has that in him, but he also has, not even like Brett. Like he makes some really bad decisions. And what scares me is it's not under pressure sometimes. Like he makes some bad decisions from a clean pocket. And, like that's to be expected from a young quarterback. And that's why you wonder how much of this is really on the coaching staff and on Matt LaFleur. Because, there's plays, there's examples where they could have won a football game. He has A.J. Dillon underneath. He's had guys underneath and he's hunting the big play. And I get it because he has a rocket cannon for an arm. And you would think Christian Watson's a 4-3 guy.
Right.
With height. I'm going to throw jump balls to him. But they're not on the same page. And I don't know how much of that's even on Love because Rodgers and Watson weren't on the same page. And people were throwing Rodgers under the bus. Oh, Rodgers sucks this year. And I was like, he's off on the deep ball. But is it on Rodgers or is it on Watson? In some games, it looked like it was clearly on Rodgers. But, yeah, he's an incomplete grade right now. We need a bigger sample size. But it's crazy because, if they were to go winless the rest of the season, I would want Drake May or Caleb Williams. But if you couldn't have one of those guys, I like Bo Nix, but I would probably rather run it back with Jordan Love. This isn't disrespect to Jordan Love. It's just I think those guys are going to be all-pro quarterbacks. Whereas with Jordan Love, I don't know yet. I think it's maybe if he has the right coaching staff and he has the right weapons. But I don't think he's winning a Super Bowl with Wicks and with Dobbs and with Musgrave and with that offensive line. So I'd like to see him play behind a real offensive line. That's what sucks when you have one of the highest paid left tackles and he hasn't done anything in 3 years. And I feel bad because it's an injury, but yeah. So mainly long answer, the throws that he can make have been what I've liked from Jordan Love. And that, he doesn't seem like he lets anything get to him.
There was that play.
Because Zach Wilson's clearly broken. Jordan Love doesn't seem broken after some bad performances.
Zach Wilson's in a bad spot. But that Dontavius
broken.
Who?
Mac Jones is broken too.
Yeah, that's another
you
one,
watched that game on Sunday morning, which I don't blame anybody that didn't. I almost fell asleep. And after the game, he gets benched for Bailey Zappi, who comes in and throws a game-losing pick. And Mac's on the sideline, just shaking his head, just I suck. You could tell he wasn't because he went over and he shook all of his teammates' hands, and he gave Bailey Zappi a little hug and said, "Go win the game." He wasn't being a bad teammate. I think you saw he was I suck. And I don't think Jordan Love thinks he sucks because if you think you suck, you're not going out there acting like you're Favre and Mahomes. And I like that. I even tweeted this. I love what we saw from Jordan Love the first 3 quarters last Sunday. I'll even take those picks at the end. Go out there, use your legs. You're an athlete. Let that freaking arm rip. I don't want you thrown into double coverage, but
right.
That's what I wanted to see. He looked like he trusted himself a little bit more. He went out there and it was Jordan Love on the playground all over again. You don't want to see that all the time because that's what we saw that last year at Utah State and he led the country in picks. But we do want to see a little bit. We want to see that happy middle. And that's where the coaching staff comes into play. And that's what makes you worry and wonder a little bit about LaFleur.
I want to bring up a young guy that had his issues. Remember that play a couple of weeks ago where Wicks went for the first down and he reached out with the ball for the first down marker and the ball hit off the ground. The ball bounced up in the air. The defender caught it, kept his feet in bounds, and ended up being a turnover instead of a first down. And Wicks is walking off the field and his head is in his chest, just head down, just not happy. And I think was it Rajul Douglas or Aaron Jones? One of those vets.
Aaron Jones.
Yeah, takes his helmet and lifts it up. And it was dude, it's fine. We got you. Don't worry about it type deal. And try to pick him up. You don't see that from Jordan Love, right? You don't see him throw a pick and walking off with his head down and feeling bad for himself and all of that type of stuff. And from a young guy like Wicks who makes a big turnover, it hit him hard, right? And he was feeling his emotions a little bit. You don't have that with Love. Now, the one thing I haven't seen, and not to say that it doesn't happen just because it's not on camera, is I haven't seen the rah-rah stuff from Jordan Love yet to kind of be clapping his hands on the sidelines. Hey, we're still in this. We're still in this. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. You haven't really seen that from Love. He seems pretty quiet, pretty reserved, kind of chilled. Him and Tom Clements are on the sidelines looking at film or whatever else. You haven't seen that rah-rah stuff that you see from, the great quarterbacks when they're in that position like they were against the Saints, to kind of rally themselves back or whatever the case may be. That I think will come as part of his leadership style. I haven't seen it yet. And again, that's not saying it doesn't happen because it's not on TV. I just haven't seen it.
Yeah, you know what? I don't care if that never comes, to be honest. I love when we see that from Patrick Mahomes, a guy, like a Wicks will fumble and he'll go over and he'll pick his head up and he'll be like, yo, you're going to make a play on the next drive. Don't worry. Pick your head up. There's plenty of plays to be made. Rodgers wasn't that guy. Joe Burrow's not that guy. If you watch Joe Burrow during the games, he goes and he sits by himself. He's like a silent assassin. Tom Brady was kind of the same way. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing worse than being in a locker room with a guy that's fake. Like a guy that, like, maybe Jordan Love's just not that type of leader, and that's fine. Maybe he leads in another way, but there's nothing worse than the guy that has to be rah-rah guy. And you're like, dude, like, you're not rah-rah guy. Because the guys that are the rah-rah guys that you want to hear from, a great example, Mercedes Lewis. There's a veteran where he's going to go in that locker room. He's going to give a speech, and you're going to want to run through a wall. You're going to want to go out there and kill somebody. You're going to want to, like, hug everybody in that locker room, your brothers. Jordan Love's a young player. He goes up there in front of some of these guys, Rasul Douglas. I know he's not there anymore, but like some of the vets, they might just be like, yeah, piss off, kid. So he hasn't really like got there yet. Rodgers was never really that leader. I think Rodgers, what we're finding out though, man? I know that people are always going to want to hate on Rodgers. I think Rodgers really was a leader. The fact that he got Allen Lazard, who in my opinion is one of the worst receivers in the NFL right now, $40 million or whatever, shows how good of a teammate. No, but I mean, I think Rodgers led in different ways. Especially early on, he was really close with his offensive linemen. I mean, you would read those stories. Him and the backup quarterbacks, they would be going to like frat parties. Him and Jordy, obviously close. Him and Cobb, close. He may have had his like inner circle, but I don't know. I think he was a locker room guy. I think he was a leader in that locker room. And I think the way that he led was he demanded perfection because that's what he was, perfection. You know what I mean? Like when we bring up his stats, when we get to that topic here in a minute, we're going to compare the seasons of Jordan Love and Aaron Rodgers, and he just never threw the picks. He never threw the ball in the middle of the field. It would drive us crazy. He never wanted to make the mistake. And that's why in the locker room, I don't know. I think some of these guys are missing that. Like, I think that's what Jair wanted to say in that interview. And I would have rather just like, he was just open and honest when they were like, what is this team missing? And he was like, nothing. We got everything we need. I think you need a guy like Rodgers, even if you think he's a Richard, even if you think he's a jerk, man. Like, he's a winner and he's an alpha male. And like, that's what this league is. It's guys like Tom Brady, it's guys that we hate, but we're not in the locker room with those guys. And Jordan Love's just not there yet. He's young, but like, that's what worries me just a little bit. Last thing I'll say on it, because who is there already? CJ Stroud. It worries me. I'd be worried if I was a Carolina fan. I don't know that Bryce Young has that. I watch him on the sidelines and it looks like like he wants to cry sometimes. CJ Stroud threw a pick against the Bengals with a 10-point lead. They tie that game, and he just goes out there the next drive, lets that thing rip, and wins the game. And then after, he's like, in the locker room giving speeches, even though he's only 22 years old, 23 years old. You listen to him in these interviews, and he's like, this team's never going to suck again. And that's what Joe Burrow was saying, too. We need that from Jordan Love. I would love to hear Jordan Love be like, we're going to run the table. I don't know. Show some freaking confidence, kid. Anyway.
It's interesting. I saw a video before we came on Twitter. It was a Carolina Panthers owner. And he said that they had a 3-way trade worked out last year before the draft, the week before the draft. It was them, the Bears, and the Texans. And the Texans were going to 1. The Bears were going to 2. And then the Panthers were going to 2 and flopping with the Bears. That was the deal. And this deal was done on like Wednesday. They pretty much all agreed to it, but the paperwork wasn't done. So Thursday comes, hear nothing. Friday comes, have heard nothing. Then they get a call from the Texans who back out and say, no, we don't want to do this. We changed our mind. We don't want to do it. So then they get on the phone, they talk to polls, and they hammer out the deal to go from 1 to 9 to make it work, to get Carolina to 1. But it sounds like they did not want to go to 1. They wanted to go to 2. And then let the Texans make their decision of who they wanted to pick at quarterback and then probably take whoever was left. I had not heard that story before, but that's interesting to hear it now, knowing the Texans ended up with 2 really good players on offense and defense by the time that whole thing was said and done versus maybe just getting a quarterback and that being it. So Texans come out looking even smarter than they were before. All right, let's get ready for topic number 2. You're listening to Curd and Long here, either on your Odyssey app or if you download your favorite podcast. We'll do that coming up next. See Sparky, Fifer, Ryan Horvat, Curd and Long. Ryan, you can follow him on Twitter at Ryan Horvat. You can follow me at Sparky Radio. What do you want to see Jordan Love do better the second half of the season? We talked about what we like from Jordan Love so far. What do you want to see Jordan Love do better? Dan Orlovsky made a great point yesterday morning, I think it was, and I agree with him. 1,000%. I literally was saying it on my couch while I was watching the game, but nobody else has said a word about it. So I was like, oh, maybe I'm wrong. I've never played quarterback in the NFL. His ball placement on some of these routes is really negating how big of yardage they can pick up, right? So on a ball that should get you 10 to 12 yards because he's throwing it low and the receiver's having to go down and catch it and end up on the ground, it's going for 5 yards. If he hits the receiver in the chest, the receiver is able to turn around and run and get another 4 or 5 yards. And yes, it's a completion, but it's not a completion getting the most out of that play because of where you're throwing the football. And as Orlovsky also pointed out, look, like Ryan said, he's making a lot of great throws, like highlight type throws. You're like, holy crap, like that's great. The problem is he's not making enough of the second level throws, the good throws. He needs to make more good throws going forward and getting the ball in better placement to hit guys on the run so they can go upfield, so they don't have to fall to the knees to catch the ball or stop the route in order to catch the ball. I very well done by Dan Orlovsky to point that out. I think he's right. I don't disagree. So I guess that would be what I want to see Jordan Love do better, is quit throwing those balls to guys' ankles. They essentially have to stop themselves. I love when you get a ball thrown, you're on the ground, nobody's near the wide receiver, and the dude just starts rolling like he's in kindergarten, rolling and rolling and rolling until somebody touches him, because there's no way you're getting back up. If you get back up, you're going to get clobbered. So you just roll to try and get another yard or two. Those are the things, I agree with Orlovsky that you want to see him do better. Ryan Horvat, what do you want to see Jordan Love do better?
Yeah, I agree with all that. It's really a good question. I mean, you kind of just said it all right there. Dan kind of said it all. And I completely agree, that with Jordan Love, because again, like the arm talent is there, and you just wonder, and like I wasn't being a hater when the Packers drafted Jordan Love, like everybody thinks I was being. I was just saying, like, Jordan Love's a project that probably has to play right now. Like, you just really, you would have rather him get rid of these growing pains early on in his career, like as a rookie, than right now when you have to make a decision on Jordan Love already this year or next year. You know what I'm saying? Like, because you wonder how many of these things are coachable that we are watching, like the things that Dan is talking about. You know what I mean? Like, back in the day, I always thought, like, if you have a rocket arm, like Favre or like Josh Allen, like that's kind of what you were if you weren't an accurate quarterback. And then remember a couple of years ago, Josh Allen out of nowhere was one of the more accurate quarterbacks in the league. Now he's regressed again and picked up bad habits. And a lot of it I feel like is probably correctable or fixable, whether it's, going back to front squats, deadlifts, mechanics, whatever it was that Rodgers went back and watched film. Maybe Jordan Love just needs a full offseason with Tom or with somebody else. Maybe Jordan Love works with Aaron Rodgers, as crazy as it sounds, this offseason.
Yeah.
And figures out whatever the hell it was that Rodgers saw. You know what I mean? Like how he was planning his foot. Because there are simple mechanics that you could just fix. Now that I feel like there weren't maybe back in the day. It's just a little bit different. Back in the day, also, guys played sports. I mean, this might be like a dumb take. Guys played like 3 different sports. Like guys played baseball, basketball, football. Now guys focus on their craft year round. I mean, the Spark, like kids play baseball year round. If your kid plays baseball, that's what he's doing.
For sure.
You stick a baseball by the time summer rolls around because he just wrapped up fall ball. With football, it's kind of the same thing. There used to be like speed camps, especially like, Joliet Catholic, like all the running backs, all the skill position players would go to like, I know Don Beebe had a speed camp,
absolutely.
Maybe like Graff or somebody like that, and they would go to these speed camps. Now, man, look at all these quarterback camps. Look at the Elite 11 or whatever it is, the Dilfer camp, the Manning camp. There's so many different camps where
7-on-7 passing leagues going on inside at different places.
Yeah. Some of this stuff for Jordan Love might be correctable. Some of this stuff might be just like Jordan Love needs to see some of these defenses, see what these coordinators are doing, and that's where it comes down to coaching, or he just doesn't have it. And he's got a good arm. He could be a good backup in this league. Like Jordan Love has a job. He's not going to be out of this league. He won't be in the XFL. He's talented. I just don't know if he's talented enough to win you a Super Bowl. And I think that should be the goal. The goal shouldn't be like, oh, well, Brad Johnson won a Super Bowl and Jimmy Garoppolo took the Niners to a Super Bowl. Unless, you feel confident that Brian Gutekunst is going to be able to draft the next Fred Warner and the next, all those guys, man. So with Jordan Love, I just want to see him get a little bit better every week. And last week, I do care about the interceptions in the fourth quarter because that was kind of the same nonsense that we saw the first couple weeks, But with Jordan Love, he got better last week. He was watchable. I actually enjoyed watching the Packers last week.
Yeah, they moved the ball every time they had it for the most part.
I didn't enjoy them. And it didn't help that I had to watch them in prime time, like with my co-host. I like to watch the games by myself. Even with fellow Packer fans, I just like to be in my own zone because I watch the game differently. But like I didn't enjoy the last 2 weeks. Last week, even though they lost, I was fine with it. I was like, I didn't think they were going to win that game. I bet against them in that game. But I saw some stuff. The same stuff that you see. Like Patrick Mahomes has 8 or 9 interceptions this year. Yep. Josh Allen has 9 interceptions. I don't give a crap about interceptions, man. I just want to know, can you make the throws? And are you going to make the right decisions in the fourth quarter? If you throw a pick in the second quarter, it is what it is, but we can't have these back-breaking interceptions in the fourth quarter. I don't even like A.J. Dillon, but that's Jordan Love's best friend. You should always know where his ass is at on that field, man. And if he's wide open underneath, take that throw, and then we got to trust. The other thing we haven't talked about, I wanted Mason back. I know everybody else felt differently. Then we got to worry about the kicker, Carlson, making the damn kicks when they count.
I'm trying not to think about that. Let's move on. Okay, let's go to the next topic. I don't want to stress over the damn kicker.
Help is all I'm saying, man.
I feel like the kicker in football is like a closer in baseball. Like, worry about that when your team's good and you need the kicker. When you suck, it doesn't really matter, to be honest with you.
Maybe only reason on purpose so we could get Caleb.
Yeah, right. But I mean, the only thing that I was mad about in training camp was, listen, like if they win 7 games and the kicker costs us 3 and they could have been a playoff team, I'm going to be mad. This is not a playoff team. They don't look anything close to a playoff team. So it really doesn't matter from that aspect if he makes it or not. Do I still get upset when Carlson misses a kick? Yes. But for the most part, he's been a lot better than I expected, at least coming into this year. There's no doubt about that. All right, take a quick time out. Come back on the other side. We're going to compare Jordan Love versus Aaron Rodgers' number in their first year here on Curd and Long. Steve Sparky Fifer. Follow me at Sparky Radio. Ryan Horvat, BetMGM tonight. Follow him at Ryan Horvat. All right, let's talk about Jordan Love versus Aaron Rodgers in their first year here on Curd and Long. Don't forget, you can listen to us on your Odyssey app or if you download your favorite podcast app. You can also check out the videos on the Odyssey Sports YouTube page. We normally stream these live during the course of the week. Record Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Download them at 5 p.m. Central Time all 3 of those days. Ryan Wood put this stat out from the Green Bay Press Gazette. You can follow him on Twitter at @ByRyanWood. And it was simple. Jordan Love through 9 starts, 176 of 300. 58.7% completion ratio percentage, which we all know isn't good. 2,009 yards, 6.7 yard average, 14 touchdowns, 10 picks, 80.5 quarterback rating at this point. Jordan Love, 16 game pace, 3,571 yards, 24 touchdowns, 17 picks, and an 80.5 rating. In comparison to Aaron Rodgers' first year as starter, he had a 63.6% completion rate, so 5 percentage points better. 7.5 yard average, which is almost a full yard better. 4,038 yards, which would be about 500 yards more than Jordan Love. 28 touchdowns, 13 picks, and a 93.8 rating. So overall, Rodgers, again, we don't know what Love's going to look like, but this is just based on everything to this point, averaging it out, was all Ryan Wood did, and then going forward. I think his numbers are going to be better than what's projected because it feels like the last 2 weeks they're getting better. I'm hoping that these first half of games where we did 3 or 4 weeks where it was 1-2-3 punt, 1-2-3 punt over and over again are done. That's what I'm hoping for. And we can get to moving the ball every first half. But if Jordan Love finishes at 3,500 yards, 24 touchdowns, 17 picks, and a quarterback rating of 80, Ryan Horvat, is that acceptable?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's acceptable. Again, I kind of just wish this came his rookie year, but that's not the world we're living in, and that's not the world that we were living in with Aaron.
Right.
I don't know though, man. It's easy to say now, and I don't think a lot of people can say this, but I was always an Aaron guy. I was the biggest Brett guy. I was, but I was sick of Brett because I was sick of the tears at the end of every single season. And I thought, I just wanted him to say after that heartbreaking loss to the Giants at Lambeau, I kind of wanted to, don't get me wrong, I wanted to trade Rodgers for Randy Moss.
Sure. So did everybody else.
I wanted to hear Favre after that game be like, yo, we were this close. We got a good team, a good defense. And, like Greg Jennings was just coming up. I'll be back next year. And then I would have been like, let's go. But no, he was gone. And it was Aaron's turn. And Aaron showed us against the Cowboys he could play. Then, of course, he got hurt. But so I was ready for Aaron. And even like that first year, man, like that defense kept letting them down. And Aaron got hurt multiple times. And I just saw things. That's just what I want to see from Jordan. And I do see, like last game, I saw some of the stuff. So, like the numbers, I'm not even really worried about the numbers. He can throw 20 picks. It is what it is. It's just when he throws them. Again, you know what I mean? And like, does he make the smart decision, the right football play? That's really all I care about with Jordan Love. And again, like I want to ride with Jordan Love next year regardless, unless
you're at 1 or 2.
Yeah, you're at 1 or 2. And then you got to get one of those guys. If you were going to move off of Jordan Love, I would have did it. I mean, remember when the Ravens didn't want to commit to Lamar Jackson? I would have made a phone call. Hey, we got Aaron Rodgers. Hey, we got
right.
not a whole else lot that you want, but you know what I mean? Because I don't want to live in the world where you're the Colts. No offense, Spark. I mean, now you have Anthony Richardson, but I don't want like Carson Wentz one year,
every year,
Matt Ryan one year, and then the corpse of Phillip Rivers one year. I don't want to do that. I would rather like let Jordan Love work out these growing pains, and then if he sucks in a year or two, move on. It was like, the draft where Trevor Lawrence was at number 1. You had to take Trevor Lawrence. It was like when RG3 and Andrew Luck were there. We had to take one. You had to take one of those two guys. I don't think the Packers are going to be bad enough for a Drake May or a Caleb Williams, but
Agreed.
If they were, I would want to move off of Jordan Love for one of them. But I think I've seen enough to want to see more. And I'm not the guy that drafted him. It's not my money.
Right.
And if he sucks, I want Goot. I want this to be on Goot. That's the thing. I think Goot's a little nervous, man. I think he wanted to make the big ballsy pick. He wanted to be like Dad. He wanted to be like Ted. He made the pick because we all saw stuff from Jordan Love that year at Utah State, and we're like, holy cow, is this Mahomes? And even the year he threw all the picks, we're like, Mahomes wasn't that great in college. I mean, like he had a ridiculous arm, but he threw a bunch of picks. He was, working with that idiot Kingsbury. But then, then at practice, I do think that there was something to that where they didn't know if Jordan Love was the guy. I mean, you believe that, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and I think Goot was like, oh, crap, what have I done? And now I think he's like, oh, God, what do I do? He's lucky that he's in this market in Green Bay, because if he's in New York, like Dave Gettleman and those guys, there's probably a little bit more pressure when the New York Times is putting out front page articles calling for your head. Like the Green Bay Press Gazette, God bless them, isn't calling for the head of Brian Gutekunst.
No.
We're like reliving Aaron Rodgers' 2012 season and comparing it to Joe Clubs.
No, that's not happening. No, that's definitely not happening. I totally agree with you on that one. All right. I want one other thing here.
Yeah.
Rodgers, when he came in, we've talked about this in the past, had veterans around him. How much of a benefit do you think that was for Rodgers that first year versus what Love is dealing with?
A whole lot. I mean, like, that's the thing. It's hard to be hard on Jordan Love every week. I'm hard on him when he just does something stupid. But I'm easy on him when he's dealing with like offensive linemen that have no business being in the league. That's what it comes down to. I mean, the receivers are probably fine. Christian Watson, like
we'll talk about next.
Yeah, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, none of these guys are all pros. There's not a Garrett Wilson or a Chris Olave even on that team. I'm sorry, there just isn't. I do like Jaden Reed a lot. Like, a lot. He might be really good. He might be an all-pro, Pro Bowler good, Jaden Reed. Jaden Reed's the best wide receiver on this team. And it's crazy to see that after a loss, the wide receiver room is led by a rookie.
Reed had a meeting right by his locker after the game.
Yeah, he's a rookie. He's a kid. He's the best one. And hands down, he's the best one. I mean, Christian Watson has all the physical tools. Christian Watson's like Ben Simmons, man. You know what I mean? Where he's got it all, and you wish you could be him. Like, I would kill to run a 4.3 40 and be 6'3". I also think people are a little hard on Christian Watson's family on social media.
A lot.
Yeah, his mother and his parents are going to defend him. If that was me, my mom would be like calling for these people's heads. I mean, that's what
his brother. His brother fights with everybody on Twitter. Trey.
I have no problem with that, man. Like, because like that's family. Like,
yes,
you know what I mean.
Right.
And at the end of the day, yeah, I want Christian Watson to be better, but he's a human. Like. People probably watch a show and they're like, oh, Horvat told me to bet Tulane. They got smoked by 40 to UMass. I want him to be better. But I don't think they should be like calling for me to die on Twitter. People might not like my Jordan Love takes, but I think like I have to hit the block button when they're like, saying mean stuff.
Right.
These guys at the end, they're humans. So, I don't know. That's a side note. But yeah, all these guys got to be better. And I think a lot of that has to do with it, man. I mean, there's no Greg Jennings or Donald Driver in that locker room.
Interesting stat we want to go over coming up about Christian Watson that got put out there as far as wide receivers in single coverage this year. A minimum of 150 routes through week 10. Peter Bukowski put this out, and the chart is from at Throw the Damn Ball is where he got it from. We'll talk about that chart coming up next here on Curd and Long. All right, back on Curd and Long. Of course, you can download us on your Odyssey app. Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, we put the podcast up 5 p.m. Central Time. You can go through and listen to, tell your friends, tell your family members. Plus, you can also live stream us on the Odyssey Sports YouTube page as well. We were talking before the break about Christian Watson and this chart as far as how many times he faces double teams. He faces more double teams than any receiver in the NFL. Any receiver in the NFL. The second closest to him is Chris Godwin, then Calvin Austin, of all people. That is crazy to me that he is the most double covered receiver in all of football. If you look at it's a chart on the left side, percentage of routes to get single coverage. He only gets it 25% of the time. That's it. DeAndre Hopkins gets it 45% of the time he gets single coverage. T. Higgins is like 46, 47% of the time. Garrett Wilson is 45% of the time he gets single coverage. And you already said how bad Alan Lazard is. And they have nobody proven with Christian Watson at this point. I am shocked by that fact that he is the most double covered guy in the National Football League. That just blows my mind.
It's because everybody else sucks.
Yeah, but they don't. You just said Jay Reed's the best receiver on the team.
Yeah, nobody knows who the hell he is yet.
Right.
How many people were watching Michigan State football? I don't think Mel Tucker was the head coach. I don't think he was watching. He was too busy. Never mind.
Leave it alone. Yep. Be nice.
Hey, now. I heard anything going on the air, and my producer was like, and I was like, don't worry, man. It's okay. I listened to Mike Valenti's show out in Detroit. He told somebody to, never mind. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I guess I'm kind of shocked. The thing about Christian Watson too, Spark, is he runs one route.
Dude, the passer quarterback rating against Christian Watson. I think we said this on Monday. I think I read those. I did read those numbers on Monday. Go back and listen to the Curd and Long podcast on Monday. The passer rating for Jordan Love when throwing to Christian Watson is like 48. Like, don't all these other NFL teams see those numbers? Don't they pay people for analytics and knowing numbers and this and that and all this other stuff? If he is that bad being targeted by Jordan Love, why in God's name am I double teaming him for?
I'm a bad co-host because I meant to do this. I wanted to look at his route tree. I want a route breakdown. I feel like everything with Watson is vertical. And I get it. He's like 6'3", 6'4", whatever the hell he is, and he runs a 4.3 40. He's your burner, the guy that takes the top off the defense. But like this was always my MVS now in Kansas City runs routes. It's not just, hey, run 50 yards down the field. Like we have Christian Watson, and this is what they were doing with Rodgers, just streaking down the field, but Jordan Love can't get him the ball right now. So do something different, man.
Get him the ball somewhere else on the field.
Routes.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I could come up with, I could do it. I haven't told you this. I'm going to be calling some plays beginning next Saturday. Not next Saturday. After college football season, Nathan's all in on football now. And we're going to play some flag football. And I'm going to coach the team. So, I mean, I'll have those kids running routes, and we'll be hanging 40 every weekend. But I can't do that. I hope
it goes better for you than it did for me, because my flag football coaching experience, we got destroyed every game. I think we scored one touchdown the entire flag football season this fall. We had second graders, they had third graders. Well, and let me tell you, the maturity and the physical size difference between a second and a third grader is much bigger gap than I thought. I literally, Ryan, had 4 kids that wanted to play and never wanted to come out the field. The rest of them all wanted to sit on the sidelines and watch and beg me to come out and not have to play. So I hope for your sake that you have kids that actually want to play football. I think
this is actually going to be my future career. As you know, my grandfather, the great Gordy Gillespie, we just coached the kid at the end of the bench. That's going to be a goal of mine. And then hopefully one day somebody will write a book about me, the team, about my 4th grade flag football team taking home the ship. My kid's got a rocket for an arm, just like I did too. My issue was and I'm not perfect, so I could do, I could rip myself too. I couldn't take snaps because it's true, man. The small hands thing is true. I have small hands, big feet though, so we don't need those kind of jokes.
Yeah.
But I struggled to take snaps under center, except for my center in the 7th grade. Everything had to be out of shotgun. When I got to high school at Joliet Catholic, my grandpa's offense, there was no shotgun, double wing, everything under center. I couldn't get anything down. No, everything. So the small hands, that was a thing for me for some reason, man. But I could sling the pill. So
but
can my
flag
kid.
football, you're not under center anyhow. Flag football, you're out of shotgun. You're not.
No, that's the thing. Yeah, I didn't realize I couldn't do it until it was time to actually have to do it. But I think Jordan Love may be just fine, man. We'll see. And Christian Watson, I don't know. I mean, he might not be good.
Shoot, he's number 1 in getting double covered. I'm not going to sit here and say you stink. Listen, when MVS dropped balls and James Jones dropped balls and these guys all dropped balls, they weren't leading the league and getting double covered week in and week out in the National Football League. They weren't. They were just dropping balls at an alarming rate. Now, we can argue about should he do more fighting for a ball one way or the other. You could have that conversation. But you know who he is, I think he's Alvin Harper. Remember Alvin Harper for the 90s Cowboys? The receiver opposite of Michael Irvin? That's all that dude ran. He just ran go routes. That's all. Every time.
I think that's because he was pounding cocaine before games. That's all they could get him to do is just run out there. Hey, hold on. All right. So Christian Watson, right? Of 84 receivers targeted at least 48 times, his drop rate of 10.9% ranked 80th. So out of 84 graded receivers that are targeted at least 48 times, he has a drop rate of 10.9%, which rates 80. So there's 4 wide receivers in the league that are worse right now than Christian Watson at catching the football. This is my issue, man. Devontae had drops early on, and people like Bart were calling for his head. Again, though, it was with Devontae, though, it was okay, he's just got to put it together. And same thing with Watson. I'm not out on Watson. I don't know. I felt like Devontae had more mental toughness to him.
Don't know. Devontae, there was a story where Devontae was thinking of quitting football at one point when he was in Green Bay because he was so frustrated and mad at the whole situation that he literally was thinking about quitting football and not playing in the NFL anymore. He was just going to walk away because of the drops, and it was getting to him. It was beating him up mentally, and he was so pissed off at himself that he was really contemplating at one point walking away from the game. I'm telling you, that is not easy when you're a public figure, you have high expectations, and then you don't live up to them, and you have to deal with social media, seeing people out in the store, or wherever the case may be. That will take a huge mental toll on you. Forget what happens in the game, right? We talked about Wicks earlier, head down, walking off. Oh, poor me. Okay, fine. But now we're talking about everybody saying, dude, Christian Watson sucks. You are killing us, right? Just get him off the damn field. He is killing us. That's completely different. This is a 2nd-round pick that had success with Rodgers in the second half of last year. Coming into this year, he was supposed to be the number 1 wide receiver. He was going to be their go-to guy going forward. He worked, as you pointed out, with Jordan Love in the offseason, trying to work on that chemistry to build that up to get that better. And none of it has mattered, and he's been brutal. But as been pointed out by others, like you, Devontae Adams sucked. I thought he was James Jones. That's who I thought he was. And he turns out to be one of the greatest receivers in the game, right? And he turned it around. So there's not to say he can't turn it around. But right now, no, he's not very good. But yet he gets double covered more than anybody in the league. Again, I'm not a defensive coordinator, but that doesn't make any damn sense to me, Ryan Horvat. Doesn't make a bit of sense.
Yeah, I know, but the proof is right there in the numbers that he's dropping 10.9% of his targets. At what point is Jordan Love just screw this?
Right.
And I feel like I have to change my stance around here, and I have to be Team Jordan Love because my issue, some of those down years for the Packers where they didn't get Aaron Rodgers any help. And I feel like that should maybe be my stance here with Jordan Love the more I look into the numbers and I see that Christian Watson can't catch a pass to save his life. and he's throwing to Luke Musgrave, who can't catch a pass to save his life. And I've seen enough of trying to think of, man, like who I actually like really on that offensive line. Who do you like on the offensive line?
Zach Tom at right tackle.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so yeah, Zach Tom's
And Elton Jenkins, I don't know. He's been hurt all year. So if I get old Elton Jenkins back, who was like all pro, could play anywhere on the line, I love Elton Jenkins, obviously. And Zach Tom this year, I only like Zach Tom. And the small one, Sean Ryan, I liked, and then they yanked him, and that was the end of that.
Yeah, it's so hard to evaluate a quarterback when this is what he's dealing with. But
right.
Yeah. Christian Watson has to be better, or they have to start giving him targets. He has to, and he's going to get targets when he's on the field. So he's got to start. I keep waiting for that breakout game. And
Could
it's
be
funny,
against the Chargers.
And that's the thing. Like, it has to. But we said that, against Denver, it should have came.
Denver now. Denver has become the Lions of last year. Lions beat the Packers. They got on that huge run second half of the year, the Lions. And now the Broncos beat the Packers. And now look who's starting to get on a run and playing better football. All of a sudden, they might have a chance at the playoffs at this point. That's just crazy.
I do think, and I know we'll do our predictions, obviously, coming up on Friday, but I do think that the Packers beat the Chargers.
No, I'm not picking them.
I do. I think the Packers beat the Chargers, and I think here's a little early Horvat prediction. I'm taking the Packers +3. Also, just before we even get to Friday, in case the number's gone, here's a little bonus. I love Oregon State against Washington. They're 2.5-point favorites, a 2-loss team at home over an undefeated team that's number 5 in the country. That's called the market indicator, kids. We could talk about it more on Friday, but grab Oregon State now before they get to 3, because that number is going to be long gone by the time we do the show in 48 hours. I just bet the money line -135. But I think my hot take really quick, Packers win on Sunday, maybe win by margin, like 7 to 10 points. And then Brandon Staley gets fired on Monday. I think the Chargers, he's the problem too, man, because the offense is not the problem. We saw that last week. Justin Herbert was matching score for score, but the defense has somehow regressed every year since Anthony Lynn, even though they have, and some of these guys I get are, always injured or hurt. But yeah, Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, Derwin James. These guys are a lot better than, the guys that we got on the defensive side of the ball. And they've regressed every year, even though Brandon Staley was hired because he was this defensive, whiz, this defensive genius. So that's on him. So he's got to go, and then Kellen Moore will become the interim head coach, and then we see what happens there. If I'm Ben Johnson and I'm leaving Detroit, that's the job I want.
No doubt. Yeah.
I want to go coach either Justin Herbert, or I want the job, whoever gets Caleb or Drake.
Yep, totally agree. He is Ryan Horvat. Follow him on Twitter, Ryan Horvat, BetMGM tonight. And, of course, tailgate to kickoff Saturday mornings, 8 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Eastern. Catch that on 1250 a.m. The Fan in the Milwaukee area if you are here. Otherwise, BetQL radio stations around the country, they all carry it. Follow me at Sparky Radio, 1250 a.m. thefan.com. Don't forget our 17th annual fan toy drive for Children's Wisconsin. Robin's Nest starts Monday, November 27th through Friday, December 1st. 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. each day. I'll be out there at Blaine's Farm and Fleet in Oak Creek on Rawson Avenue. Love to see you. If you don't live in the area and you want to donate online, you can do that right now. Go to 1250 amthefan.com. Click on the toy drive link, and it'll take you right through to where you can donate to Children's Wisconsin. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a good one. Toodles.